I've been wanting to make a video of my emotions and feelings towards the mask situation. Um, Yesterday I had attempted to make it 4 separate times, and each time I prayed for whatever God wanted me to say to be His words and not mine. And yet, every time I made it, I know that it was more my words, not His, because I was just so angry. And I'm angry because I don't like being forced into something. I'm not going to give statistics or numbers or what's real and what's true and what's false, what's fiction, because in this given moment of time, we really don't actually know what's real. So everyone's up in arms about, I believe in them, it's not a big deal, just wear it, to I don't believe in them, it is a big deal, I don't want to wear it. Then there's some in the middle. And in the beginning of quarantine, when all of this started, there definitely was this sensation of fear. Everybody's going to the grocery store and getting toilet paper like it's going to go out of style. And food, and I mean, it was a scary thing because we haven't been through anything in our lifetime, and others' lifetimes that I've talked to that have been alive, my grandparents and so on, but they've never been through something like this either. And so the fear that was there in the beginning, I mean, like when everyone's scurrying around and freaking out, and being afraid and all the unknowns, it's when you're in the middle of that and everybody's feeling this way, it's pretty hard to stay at peace, and it's hard to stay at peace with something we actually don't know. We had no idea about. They were saying you can get it from this amount of time on the surface, and then it changes to this amount of time on the surface, and just trying to figure that out. And so anyway, it's getting off topic, of course, but I wanted to give a personal experience of what it's like for me to wear a mask. I've had an insane amount of trauma in my life. I'm not going to go into detail. It's just hard to try to keep it as vague as possible, to protect my story, but also just don't want to give out horrors on social media. And I know that a lot of people have felt the same way. They've been through similar experiences that I have, but I just want to say that with my traumas, wearing this mask that I can't breathe in has been triggering me, and I don't necessarily, I can get triggered, but I'm able to typically use, like, I'm able to, like, kind of get past it. Sometimes it trips me up, but it's not like full throttle. My mind is just out there because all I'm doing is fight, flight, or freeze in my brain when a trauma is triggered. And so whenever that happens, I can get internal anxiety. I don't necessarily, very rarely, very, very rarely. I mean, I really do think it's been like one time in a couple years that I have had a full throttle trigger trauma attack, anxiety attack, where I'm like, and I don't know, when if you've never had a panic attack, then this might be hard to experience or understand. But with panic attacks, for me, I internalize it. I'm an internal panic attack haver. I have friends that have experience the external. So when I experience an internal attack, the insides of me feel like they're screaming, but I am able on the outside to act and look as though I'm okay, and that try to hide the fact that I'm really struggling on the inside. And I can do a pretty good job at that, because that's how I'm used to handling the anxiety. But with this mask now, what it does is I've went from internal attacks to then external ones. And reliving, I mean, like, there's PTSD and then there's complex PTSD, and I'm not going to go into that because that's its own thing. But the complex PTSD amplifies memories and triggers, amplifies it, and you just, it's not mind over matter. It's not. It's, yes, there's mindfulness to it, but when there's been traumas that have never been touched or dealt with, in fact, because of wearing this mask on Wednesday night, I had a memory come up to my mind that I have not had. I just, like, totally had no idea. It's not like I forgot about it, but, like, why would I don't, there was no need for me to think about it, but this made me think about it, and it then sent me into an all-night trigger, where, I mean, I'm like, I'm talking and I'm like, I can't, like, I mean, nothing was safe around me because of wearing something that literally amplifies the fact that I can't breathe. And then when I can't breathe, it takes me back to a trauma or traumas of literally being forced to not breathe, basically. I'm literally keeping it as vague as I can, and because I just don't want to go through all that again. It's not, the details just really aren't that important in this moment of what I'm trying to get the point across. But I had been forced to go through something, multiple somethings, where I was really actually suffocated. And so when that happens, and then you're wearing something that you can't breathe in, how am I supposed to be like, that was then, this is now? I can't. If you do any studying on triggers and trauma in any way, shape, or form, to have such intense memories and then you just are reliving it as if, I mean, like, sometimes memories are actually even worse than the actual happening. The happening which created the memory is horrible. But at any given day, at any given time, something can trigger me and I'm reliving it. So I don't experience it one time. I experience it over and over and over and over again and over again. And I'm on this journey of healing, and I was doing really well and still am doing really well. I've come a very long way. But then when I am now being mandated and forced to wear something that literally suppresses my clarity and ignites the fire in my mind, and then I extra can't breathe because I don't really actually know what the fact is. I actually wanted to look that up, but I didn't. But just like how it reduces your oxygen anyway, wearing this. I am understanding that there are people who have physical health conditions that you want to be respectful around, like visiting my grandma, and I had to wear my mask, and I hated every second of it, because every second of it I couldn't breathe. And every single second of it I am having a conversation with her, but I'm also somewhere else in my mind. Same thing with counseling. How am I going to be able to get counseling and yet at the same time not be able to breathe and be triggered in the midst of the it's a cycle. It's something I just can't understand. So I just wanted to know why. I understand there's physical health compromises, but what about the mental health compromises of the aspect? What about my mind that's important? My sound of mind, my clarity, my peace. How is that any less important? Because if you don't have your brain, you aren't alive. And so my brain is it's exploding pretty much. Of all of this is exploding. It's too big for my hands to wrap around. My beliefs with this, I understand. I'm seeing where there's a lineup. It's lining things up for what's to come. And yet at the same time, I don't want to be someone who's just surviving. I want to be someone who's thriving. And I cannot thrive when I cannot breathe, and I cannot thrive when I am constantly in a trigger. And what happens is I can leave the facility that I'm at, immediately remove my mask, but then I'm in an all-day trigger where I am on super edge, where I can say things I don't mean, or I can say things that I do mean, but I don't know how to say it in the right way because I'm already messed up trying to understand why this is happening, why I have to do this, why I'm getting triggered constantly. And so I'm not here to say your view on masks is right and wrong. I am here to say that there's always perspective. There is always somebody's experience, typically, that can create their belief system. And for me to seriously to not have all of that be looked at and only say this group of people matter, which has actually been happening in more areas than this one, but to say this group of people matter, and then you who struggle with this, it doesn't matter because your issues aren't contagious. I'm like, they may not be contagious, but it can easily destroy relationships around me because I am not able to be present where it's like, oh, this is just a memory. I'm okay. It's just a memory. I can't do that with my trauma. I cannot do that with my trauma. Not right now, at least. And so I wanted to get this out just to simply say that there's so many other issues at hand, which we are very well aware of. There's so many other different perspectives, which we are aware of as well. We see that every day with people posting things, different perspectives, different belief systems, different information coming in, different information coming out, and it's always changing and evolving. And I'm like, what is truth? And what I do know is truth is that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I understand that. I can bank on that. But I have not experienced triggers to this extreme in years, where not just one memory comes up, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all reliving them, reliving them over and over and over again because I am wearing something that makes me stop being able to breathe. And then if I have a panic attack, an outer one, which I don't even know how to deal with those because I don't deal with them. I don't ever struggle with them. I struggle with the internal ones. So when I'm having an external panic attack that I've never experienced or in a very, very, very long time that I'm not used to having, and then it happens, how in the world do I calm myself down from something? Because I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. I'm a prisoner in my own mind right now. I am a prisoner in my body, and I have no say. So I go to a grocery store, say this hypothetically happens. I go to a grocery store, mandated to wear a mask. What's going to happen when I have a panic attack? Which will happen. Are they going to tell me that I have to keep wearing the mask in order to deal with my panic attack, or just, hey, walk outside and leave? But what if when we go outside we have to wear a mask no matter what? I can't just go outside and not have a panic attack and take it off and breathe. I'm going to have to wait. And some people, not even going to go there. But anyway, like, what are my options to like live a life of abundance, a life of freedom, a life of victory, a life of being an overcomer? How am I supposed to do that when every day I put that thing on that helps me not breathe even more and it triggers an immediate emotion? How am I supposed to live that life of abundance when it's constantly being stripped away any freedom I had to make my own choice? There's so many oxymorons. There's so many things that don't make sense. I really struggle when things don't make sense. I really struggle with that. And so many things don't make sense. And nothing's adding up. And people are turning against people. And it's just insane. And I know this is a part of the end times. Like I have said, I understand. This is the ball rolling up to the explosion of what's going to happen. Things are being more released. Things are being like, yes, there's that. But I'm just giving my perspective of what it's like to put that on my face. And I am just one person amongst how many others that struggle with the same thing, who don't say anything, who feel trapped even with their words and vocalizing it. And I just wanted to say that, and I said it very peacefully in comparison to last night's videos that I started making. Total different person because I was in the middle of a trigger, and I was in a trigger for the entire night. So there's so much more I would I would love to say, but right now this is my cutting off point, just to give you another perspective of what it's like. And this is like nothing in comparison to what it is that I do have to face in my brain, face in my mind, face in the way trauma brain works. Just you're literally getting just a little pencil shaving, but maybe even smaller than that, to this big picture of what it's like. And if we each matter and our opinions or who we are as a person matter, then what I experience matters too. So I would love for there to be a realization that we all matter, we're all validated, we all have value. But my experiences are just as real, except it's not physical. I don't have a physical, my heart isn't, I don't have to have heart surgery. I don't have to have, I don't have illnesses and diseases that would be like, yeah, wear your mask around me because my health is compromised. But what about my brain? What about my brain being compromised? If you're going through something illness-wise, disease-wise, perspective and mentality on it is huge. So you like, oh, I just see this is what happens. Is that I get off on something opposite, and I could say so much more clearly. But that's not the point. The point is, I just wanted to share what it's like for me, just the teensy little bit that I'm giving you, what it's like for me to wear something that reminds me constantly of not having a choice